Thank you so much, Aline. Our final speaker of the night will be talking about the psychology behind overcoming fears. She'll be sharing her experience and her journey overcoming her stage fright. So let's welcome Laura Soares to the stage.
If I spontaneously called on any of you right now to answer a question, what would you feel? I'm sure that you would probably feel anxious or scared. When you experience something that frightens you, the part of your brain that tells you to panic is called the amygdala. If you encounter something similar in the future, your amygdala will cause you to feel fear or related emotions. But there's a difference between fears that protect us, our basic instincts, and those that hinder our learning. Our basic fears have been there since the Stone Age, as early humans hid in caves from roaring predators and stormy nights. From those moments on, our fear of the dark and thunder were born. Fears which we all share to this day. They serve primarily to protect us and remove us from dangerous situations. The other types of fears, the more irrational ones, such as a fear of cockroaches or a fear of planes, they are learned through watching our surroundings and the people around us. However, our brain doesn't know how to differentiate between these two types of fears, and our bodies react in the same way in the presence of both, like when you get sweaty palms, shaking hands, or a fight or flight response. There's a famous experiment which investigates the idea of conditioned stimulus, which requires to be learned, and unconditioned stimulus, which is learned from exposure. In this experiment, a mouse is placed inside a cage and a neutral tone is played, while the scientists deliver a mild shock on the mouse. This then causes the mouse to feel fear and run. As well as the sounds, there are also other stimuli inside of the cage, such as a brightly colored wall or a distinct smell. When that same mouse is placed in a different cage, which looks and smells differently, and the tone is played, the mouse freezes in its tracks as a manifestation of fear. In this case, the unconditioned stimulus is the shock, and the conditioned is the sound, as the mouse's fear response to it had to be learned. I remember the first time I was exposed to my irrational fear. The fear of public speaking. Yes, you heard that right. The fear of public speaking. This anxiety is closely related to fear of judgments or the fear of being negatively assessed by others. I am not proud to say that this is my fear, which seems ironic, seeing as I am talking to all of you right now. During the pandemic, I was exposed to this fear more than ever, as teachers asked me questions, and me, being your typical distracted pandemic teenager, hadn't the slightest idea of what the answer may be. And as I didn't know the answers, the teachers would tell me off and give me the feared warnings, as were called the negative points we used to receive. This then developed and led to an irrational fear of being inside a classroom, virtual or physical, which deprived me of one of the greatest pleasures of my life, learning. Slowly, as time passed, I forgot those moments, but my brain refused to let go of the feeling. So, every time I entered a classroom, I felt nervous. And what annoyed me the most was that I didn't know why. I just always felt anxious in school. I asked my parents for help, and all of us were stumped when trying to figure out the root of my anxiety. It took me a long time, many therapy sessions, to finally find out why I got so nervous to do something that I had and still did enjoy so deeply. At first, this might be hard to understand, so let me help you. I want all of you to answer this question in your heads right now. Are you 100% safe, completely safe right now, in this moment? Now, at first, most of your answers probably are, yes, I am 100% completely safe in a controlled environment. However, as your mind starts to dwell on the question, it starts going places like, well, what if there was an earthquake inside this building right now? Or what if someone attacked me? But I asked you if you were safe in that exact moment, not if you would be safe in the near future. All the situations that you thought were happening, your sense of fear created them inside your mind. This is the place that someone faced with their phobia goes to. Ever since I was a small child, I was already known for being shy and reserved. However, I also had a passion for singing. So, I started taking singing lessons. And with lessons came rehearsals, and with rehearsals came presentations, in front of a relatively large group of people, may I add. I remember my first presentation. My friend said she was sick and she wouldn't come, so I would have to perform both parts alone. The thought paralyzed me, and I refused to go on stage. My family, my friends, and my teacher all talked to me, trying to convince me to go, and I wouldn't listen to any of them. Now, the 20 minutes that everyone was trying to talk me into singing, they all looked at me with weird faces and asked me, well, why don't you just go on? And I know that they meant no harm, and we're only trying to help. But let me tell you how easy it is to judge someone when you're in a comfortable space. But the moment you put yourself in their place, you'd probably do the exact same thing that they did. Most people don't realize the importance of empathy, of putting yourself in someone else's shoes. So, as all those people started to judge me for being afraid, I felt stupid and thought that this was an even bigger reason why I shouldn't go. I would like to mention that in the end, I did in fact sing, and most importantly, I was afraid. There are two major steps to overcoming your fears: accepting and controlling them. You see, fear isn't something that you can just get rid of. It's always going to be there, no matter what you do. At first, this might be disappointing to hear, seeing as you all came here hoping that I would give you an exact step-by-step guide on how to never feel fear again. And I also like to think that, in a way, this is a good thing. Because imagine if I'd never felt nervous for this TED Talk. That means I never would have practiced, and my presentation would probably be of lower quality. I've learned that just by acknowledging, accepting, and not being ashamed of your fears, you're already halfway there to becoming a more productive person who doesn't let fear control you and instead sees it as something to act upon. The next step is done by examining and questioning your fears. I want all of you to think of a situation where you felt stressed and your body's response to it. For example, when practicing for this TED Talk, I sometimes got nervous that I wouldn't do so well or that I'd mess up. And because of this emotion, I found myself so overwhelmed that I wasn't in the right mind space to start practicing for it. But when I started to feel that this emotion is starting to take over my body, the first thing I do is I stop and I ask myself, what is the worst possible outcome? Yes, you heard that right. What is the worst possible outcome? In this case, I might not do as well as I wish. But what will happen if I don't do as well as I wish? I'll probably be a little bit sad, but then it'll go away. Can anything be done about this right now? Yeah, I can go practice for it. The last and most important question that I ask myself is the size of the fear I am feeling proportional to the situation at hand? Most of the times, the answer is no. And in this case, it was no. And I'd probably be better off if I practiced with a clear mind. I can physically feel my body and my mind grow calmer. Think of it like this. Your initial problem is a huge rock that you have to carry all the way up a mountain. If you break the rock into smaller parts, you can take each part up the mountain separately, which then makes the challenge seem much less intimidating. Of course, the questions will vary depending on each person's own individual situation. However, the exercise is fundamentally the same. By questioning and examining your fears, you teach your body to react more reasonably. I've been doing this method for years now, and I can assure you that it helps immensely when dealing with stressful situations. The more you do it, the better you get at it, the less stress you feel. So, the next time someone asks you, if I spontaneously called on any of you to answer a question right now, what would you feel? Embrace and question your fear in that moment. Remember, while that fear may grip you, it's your response to it that defines you. Thank you and have a good night.